In the forgotten hollows of Hamilton County, Illinois, where Lakey's Creek winds toward the Saline River, locals once spoke of a headless horseman riding the woodland trails at nightfall. Unlike his famous cousin from Sleepy Hollow, this specter carried with him a peculiar limitation. He could never cross running water. But this is more than just another borrowed tale from European folklore. This is the story of how a single line in an 1887 county history became an eternal legend, and how the wilderness of southern Illinois transformed a Scottish immigrant's murder into something far more haunting than death itself. The documented facts are stark in their brevity. In Goodspeed's History of Hamilton County, published in 1887, we find only this: Mr. Lakey, who lived on the Jones Tract, after whom Lakey's Creek was named, and who was killed by his son-in-law. No elaborate details, no dramatic flourishes, just a single sentence, marking the violent end of a pioneer's life. By the time this history was written, even Lakey's first name had been forgotten, though family genealogists have narrowed it down to either Joel or Simon. But in the oral traditions collected by folklorist John W. Allen in 1963, Lakey's story had transformed into something far more visceral. According to the tales passed down through generations of Hamilton County residents, Lakey was building a cabin on the west side of the creek, just south of where the old trail from Carmi to Mount Vernon crossed the water. He had nearly completed his log structure, and spent his final day felling a large oak to make clapboards for the roof. That evening, as he worked to bolt the timber beside a large stump, his son-in-law approached, with a broadaxe. The next morning, an early traveler discovered the gruesome scene. Lakey's severed head lay near his body, the murder weapon still embedded in the stump. The quiet, inoffensive man had been decapitated in what appeared to be a crime without motive, for Lakey had no known wealth or enemies. But death was not the end of Lakey's story. On the evening following his burial near the unfinished cabin, two men traveling west from the Wabash found themselves joined by an impossible companion. As they approached Lakey's Creek at nightfall, a headless horseman on a large black steed appeared on their left, moving silently, downstream alongside them. The phantom rider accompanied them into the water, but as they neared the center of the stream, the apparition turned left, passed downstream, and dissolved into a deep pool below the crossing. This pattern would repeat for generations, always approaching from the east, always on the downstream side, always unable to cross the running water that marked the boundary of his former homestead. What makes this legend so fascinating is how it borrows from multiple traditions. The Headless Horseman clearly echoes Washington Irving's 1820 legend of Sleepy Hollow, itself drawn from German folklore about spectral riders in the Rhine Valley. But Lakey's Scottish heritage suggests another influence. Robert Burns' 1790 poem, Tam O'Shanter, with its own supernatural horseman. Like many American folktales, Lakey's ghost became a melting pot of old-world superstitions, adapted to the haunted landscapes of the New World. The most striking element of Lakey's haunting is his inability to cross running water, a detail that ties this Illinois legend to ancient beliefs about supernatural boundaries. Across folklore traditions, flowing water is a threshold between worlds. The river Styx in Greek mythology, the river Jordan in Christian tradition, the fairy streams of Celtic lore. All reflect the same archetype, water as both barrier and passage. But at Lakey's Creek, this boundary carries layered meaning. It marks not just the edge between life and death, but between civilization and wilderness, between the known and the unknowable. In the 1800s, Hamilton County stood at the edge of American settlement. As one observer noted, civilization ended at the fence, and even then, the wild had a way of coming in. The creek itself served the living, a marker on the road from Carmi to McLeansboro. Its shallow waters offered travelers an easier crossing. Today, Route 14 bypasses Lakey's Creek entirely. No road sign remains, and this physical forgetting mirrors the spiritual forgetting that folklorist Allen suggests may have finally laid the ghost to rest. The decapitation, whether history or legend, carries its own symbolic weight. In the 19th century, beheading embodied terror. It meant not just death, but the violent severing of reason from body, identity from existence. And for a man killed by his own son-in-law, the betrayal of blood itself, the severed head became a metaphor, a family, violently torn apart. What transforms Lakey's tale from mere murder to enduring legend is the crucial role of oral tradition in frontier communities. In an era before telephones, radios, or television, Allen notes it was common to go calling on neighbors in the evening and sit until bedtime. Stories, songs, and personal experiences filled those gatherings, and folklore naturally evolved through retelling. Each storyteller sought to improve the tale, to make it more dramatic, more locally relevant. The historical murder became a midnight decapitation. The nameless son-in-law became a spectral figure haunting the creek forever. The simple crossing became a boundary no ghost could breach. This process of folklore achieves what history cannot. Where Goodspeed's county record reduced Lakey to a single fact, his violent death, the ghost story restores him to the land. The headless rider becomes a permanent resident of the place he died building. His memory, preserved in the very geography that bears his name. Allen notes that mothers of the community played a crucial role. They carried the stories forward. They used them as cautionary tales, warning children away from dangerous places by wrapping truth in the cloak of fear. The ghost story was not only entertainment, it was survival instruction. A lesson for children of the frontier, taught by the whisper of a headless rider in the dark. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the Lakey legend is how it preserves not just a man's memory, but an entire way of life, long vanished from the American frontier. The ghost story reflects the psychological reality of that world, the constant awareness of violence lurking beyond the cabin door, the fragile line between civilization and chaos, and the way communities bound themselves together through shared stories of danger and survival. By the 1960s, sightings of Lakey's ghost had grown rare. Allen speculated that the concrete bridge replacing the old ford, the speed of automobiles, the noise of modern traffic, had frightened the spirit away. But perhaps there is another explanation. Ghosts, like the communities that create them, require attention to endure. The evening visits that once sustained oral tradition have faded. The dark country roads are avoided or forgotten. Route 14 carries travelers safely past Lakey's Creek, and few even know the waterway is there. Allen wrote, "When these places stop being a part of our daily lives, the odds of us experiencing anything decline rapidly. Yet the story persists, in writing, preserved by folklorists and historians who saw its value." The ghost of Lakey embodies something essential about memory in America. Our need to give the landscape meaning, to turn random tragedy into narrative purpose, to ensure that those who died building our communities are never entirely forgotten. Standing beside Lakey's Creek today, where beer cans and fire rings mark the places where teenagers gather in the dark, one cannot help but wonder about the stories they share. Do they know of the Headless Horseman who once haunted these waters? Or have they invented new ghosts for the forgotten places of their own generation? As the creek flows toward the Saline River, carrying memories of Illinois' lost pioneers, a deeper question lingers. In our rush toward a fully documented, GPS-mapped, digitally connected world, what human need do these old ghost stories fulfill? And when we lose the dark places, where the unknown can still surprise us, do we lose something essential about being haunted? Not only by the dead, but by the persistent mystery of existence itself. Perhaps the next time you drive past an unnamed creek or a forgotten crossroads, you might pause and consider the stories that once flowed through that land. For some forms of remembrance require more than preservation. They require belief in the power of the past to shape the present.